Hi there. Long time no see and hear. Well, it's not like I have anything to say. I'm just turning the webcam on and going to visit with you. As I've shared in a few comments with those who have written, things have been changing so much and continuing to change. And I guess I'm kind of adjusting to getting the rug pulled out from under all the time. Not adjusting to getting the rug pulled out from under, but adjusting to a new reality in which there's no stable rug to begin with. And so, who knows? Who knows what we're headed into? I've changed a lot and not at all. And I'm not going to try to do a lot of explaining. So settle down in your heart and hear from there, read the vibration, whatever you want to call it. I don't think I could explain, so instead I'm just going to share. I don't think I have anything to teach anybody. I don't think I'm a teacher or ever was. I don't know that any of us is. The shift that we're making is more into a remembrance, on the one hand, of who and what we really are, becoming more multi-dimensional, gaining access to more of our innate DNA. And so, on the one hand, you could almost see it as going backwards, way back to our origins. But on the other, I don't think there's a playbook in the galaxy, in the universe, in cosmos for what's going on here. I also think it's something different and brand new, transcendent and just awesome, with a little chaos thrown in to spice it up along the way. I used to, back when I was first introduced to Eckhart Tolle and in his Oprah appearances, that was my time for taking the waking up that I'd been doing all my life and putting it together. And I don't know, that seems like another lifetime and not just, 5-10 years ago, just nothing. I've looked back at some of my old videos and they seem like 2 or 3 lifetimes ago. When I was first waking up, the thing that I discovered, or the thing that made itself obvious to me initially, was that it didn't matter what problem, challenge, or initiation I looked at that was giving me a hard time, they all seemed to track back to mind. And if I could just be in my heart, that mind could just go deal with itself, and I just wasn't going to pay attention because it drove me nuts. And so I kind of saw mind as the I out and out saw mind as the adversary at first. And for a few years. I don't see it that way anymore at all. I do see instead, what I see instead is that mind is not a problem nor an issue. It's the programming that was overlaid on mind that was the problem. And that's getting cleared up now. A lot of us, if you're a light being, some call themselves light workers, I rather like light being, then you've been working at this for a while. You know what you want, and your direction is spiritual, and that's the steady course you've been setting. And I'm with you there. So at first, it looked like mind itself was the problem. Now instead, what I see is that what I used to call 3D or lower mind and higher mind are of a piece. They're one. They're the same. Mind can't manifest in all of its transcendence via 3D, but there's no issue with having a 3D mind. It's a really nice companion for the journey, huh? Helps us navigate here. But it's the programming. And what I'm finding is that we don't need to be doing anymore, that well and truly being is called for. The doing is taking care of itself. And so the awakenings, the moments of clarity, the shiftings, all of that is just kind of happening. As we set our course based on our intent, what's underlying us energetically, the rest takes care of itself. I've come into a great deal of peace, and I'd say on a deeper level than I've experienced it before. And I'm happy about that. I'm not claiming to be awakened or anything wonderful or special. We're all one, and the one that we are is wonderful and special. But I see no hierarchies in heaven, if you will. I see not even a hierarchy of dimensions. It's all just one. And it's as if the blue spectrum of the rainbow would look at the red spectrum and say, you need to change. You're not like me. I'm right, you're wrong. Okay, so that's duality, and I think most of us have pretty well spotted that and shifted in how we look at it. And so nobody needs to change. I can only speak in terms of I here. Like many, I thought that what needed change was the world, that we needed peace, we needed no more hurting of people or animals, we needed love for the environment, yada, 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 okay? Well, that was back in one of our previous embodiments I've had over the last couple of decades. Feels like many centuries. And I forget who said it, but I remember the words, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. And so, changing anything in others or in the world isn't called for. Again, the way I see it. What's called for, every bit of it, 100% of it, is change within self. And it has to start with acceptance, self-acceptance. We've been trained, programmed to be pretty non-accepting beings, to have pretty low sense of self-esteem or self-worth, etc., etc. You guys know the tune, you've lived it. I'm not telling you anything new. Well, that's getting flushed up and right into our faces, a lot of it. And it seems to me that that correlates with the incoming light, the cosmic light, the solar light, you know, the shifting and even sort of a breakdown of the Earth's magnetic fields is letting more of these energies in. These energies are interacting with us physically, psychically, with our DNA. Everything is shifting. Frequencies, vibrations are rising. And so it's like when a sunbeam of the rising or setting sun shines into the room. Invisible, what was totally invisible, the dust motes in the air, suddenly it's all you can see, it's in your face. And it's not that anything's different. They were there before, they just weren't seen. I think that's what's going on. And the increased entrance of the light is pretty much forcing us to face certain things. And so you may have, I have had things coming up from your childhood, from your past, things that were long buried or forgotten, or maybe you thought you'd gotten past them or whatever. And so they come up again. And when they come up with the old feelings and the imprint, the energetic imprint of it. What's to do? Nothing. Instead, if we'll just be and just witness it, just watch it from heart, be in your heart, and don't try to figure it out, feel it out. Now you may find a better way, but what's worked for me conceptually is I see it as something ready to let go, ready to be let go. But there's a healing that needs to take place. It's pain, whatever it is, it's a source of pain. Well, why is it a source of pain? Maybe because of the way we looked at it, perceived it. And if you look at anything at all that arises, my bet is that the common denominator will be lack of self-acceptance, lack of self-love, feeling lost, feeling hurt, feeling alone, feeling abandoned, feeling rejected, etc. Well, who's going to fix that? Before we morph into that victim consciousness that was also very heavily programmed into us to point the finger at somewhere and go for blame and go to prosecute someone or persecute or at least give them a hard time. Before that nonsense, and it is pure linear nonsense, it's not higher dimensional stuff, and we have more and more access now to our own being in the other dimensions. There's nowhere that you're not. There's no when that you're not. We're everywhere. And every when and everything. And the access to it is the trick. But knowing you have it, knowing you are it, helps. Okay, so some piece of crap comes up from your childhood. Let's say you were being abused. And there you sit as that little child in misery and pain, and you don't want to look at it. But you don't listen to the part of you that doesn't want to look at it. That's not you. Whatever that is, that's not you, and that's not love. It wasn't clear at first, but after any number of these, you know, waking up at 3:30 a.m. or whatever, reliving these things, I began to see that the healing was required, and that it was really very simple at the heart of it. It was calling for self-love. to love myself enough to care about how I felt. Now, but back then too. We can reach back and heal the past. Maybe not the activities of it, but how it felt, how it feels, how we reacted. We can make that whole with self-love, self-acceptance, with compassion. Okay, so, I mean, at first, sometimes when these things come up, you think, oh my God, I thought I transcended that. I thought I worked my way through it. I mastered it, whatever. Maybe I'm not doing as good as I thought I was, blah, blah, blah. All of this stuff is the programming of mind that would just love to keep you down in the misery, the sadness, the anger, all the rest of it, the depression. That is food for negative entities, you know? It's not good stuff. And we do have certain negative energies that use us as batteries to keep them fueled. And because they're negative, that's the kind of fuel they need. All right, well, we don't need to focus on that. We just need to love the self enough to know what feels good and what doesn't. And to bring healing to the self. The world will take care of itself. It's all one, and we will see the world being healed as we bring the healing to the inner hurt. We're way more one than we know, and so when one of us is doing this healing work, it actually supports us all, and Gaia. And I don't know about you, but I feel like we've reached critical mass. The corner has been turned, for sure. And this that I'm sharing with you here is what I see as my work. I don't need to teach or train anybody. I don't need to try to fix anybody, because nobody's broken, nobody but me. Each of us, in healing the inner wounds, it's quantum, it's alchemical, it's awesome. The moments of clarity that have been coming are truly and purely divine. It's awesome. I have no explanation, not a whole lot of understanding. Just enough to know that it's best to go by how you feel. And so, what does that look like? We honestly don't know how to love the self. And that's why we get illnesses and things. You know, Source will get our attention with a feather if we're responsive. But most of us aren't present enough for that. And if we're present enough, we're not compassionate enough with the self, not truly tuned in enough. We've got to care about how we feel and recognize that our job, and maybe a lot of you will laugh here, our job is to be happy. Our job is to enjoy our life, our living, our being. I don't see any more need for any kind of a doing, because I think it's just a great big illusion that we are these separate individuals, and that there is anything at all that is outside of us, and that anything is broken. The things that look broken, Earth is a mirror, and she's mirroring us back to ourselves. The way I see the law of attraction working is the things are brought to us as a mirror to show us how we're doing. And it's all done with love. There's no punishment, there's no meanness, there's none of that. Everything is love. The people that are hurting the most, that are lost, that feel the most abandoned and abused, are the ones out there creating harm. And what does society do? It punishes them for hurting. We lock people up because we don't yet understand where they are, the magnitude and depth of their pain, and how to support them through it. But again, I'm not carrying any placards. I'm not joining any marches. I'll sign a petition now and then, but only if it's very, very constructive. It's time to focus on what we want, not what we don't want. It's time to pour our precious, sacred energies into conscious creating instead of this inadvertent, accidental creating that we've been programmed to do to keep things going nice, neat, and orderly for the bad guys. You know, they love it like this. It defeats them, and so on and so on and so on. And so, yeah, the conspiracies exist. They're real. It's going on. You bet it's going on. However, if we do the fighting thing, the us against them thing, we're just keeping ourselves held back and tied down in the matrix, in the old paradigm. That's just not the way, it seems to me. Again, I can only speak for myself. I'm not feeling called to follow anyone. I've been through this one and that one, Eckhart and Muji and Adyashanti and so on and so on. And I'm not looking outside of myself anymore. I'm really not looking. It's like everything's found. If we just go within. It's kind of funny. The Zen people have been telling us all along, you know, that which you're searching for is what you are. Call off the search. We can do that now. We have the energy to support us. The multi-dimensions are unveiling themselves. And we're merging with that. We're already there, but we weren't aware of it. It was like we had some kind of a veil over us. Well, now we've moved up in frequency. And if there was ever a veil, I don't think it's there anymore. And we are empowered. Happiness is a state of being. It has nothing to do with outer circumstances. You can be happy in a jail cell. You can be miserable in a palace. And come on, you know this. I know this. We know this. And so, what we didn't know was that we could take back our power, and in a very short time, to not be subject to the winds of circumstance, to the people around us, to other opinions, and so on. Now, part of my journey, and I'll close up here, I know I'm speaking kind of long. A part of my journey has been a great deal of letting go. Endless letting go. If it wasn't one thing, it was another. And it's not that I've emptied my house out of all of the things I've let go of, but I've detached from feeling like I have to have them, that I have to have anything. And this is in relationships, you know, and in everything. Things, people, circumstances, just becoming more the witness and kind of like the detached observer. I'm very much here on the one hand, but on the other side of that coin, I'm not attached. So that when, if and as things change, I'm okay with it. I can go with it. So does seem to me, as I experience it, as I look at it, that the detachment is really key to success here. To the extent that we remain attached to the things of 3D, and 3D is beautiful. It really is. It's awesome. And we can experience it. You can be in a palace. You can be in a mansion. You can have all the wealth in the world and still be detached. If you're detached, you're empowered. And you can let people go their way when it's time for them to do that. And just not put yourself through hell anymore. Heaven is a state of, not a state of mind, but a state of being. And it's accessible now here. And so is hell. And we were trained to keep ourselves in hell for, I don't know, maybe some thousands of years, certainly any number of centuries recently. It's been hard on planet Earth. But not anymore. Not anymore. It's within me, it's within you, it's within all of us to wake up and take the reins of control away from the programming of the mind and let the soul or the inner being or the heart or whatever you want to call it go within and let that be your guiding force. And join me in just loving yourself enough to care how you feel. And you can always come up with a better thought. If you're not feeling good, stop it. And whatever you're thinking on, let it go. You don't have to fix it, whatever it is. Think on something you appreciate. Remember a time when you were really, really happy. And vibrationally, go into that energy, go into that time, and watch things shift in your life. How you feel right this minute, look at it, feel it, get a sense of it. That's what you're creating, and that's what's coming to you now. Vibrationally, that's what you're magnetizing. It goes by how we feel. And so it's enlightened self-interest, truly, to care about how you feel. And you can't go from misery straight into joy, but you can go from misery into something better, and anger. I mean, anger is better than depression. Depression, you've just given up. Anger is much more energetic, and it's a move in the right direction. I like the teachings of Abraham. It's not really that it's a teaching, but there's a lot in it. This Abraham Hicks, you can Google it. It's got a lot of good stuff that's very empowering. It's not the answer to everything. I don't think the answer to everything is within you, within me. It's within us. And for my part, I think we've got to stop looking outside the self for answers to anything. Okay. See you later. Good day. Hi there. Long time no see and hear. Well, it's not like I have anything to say. I'm just turning the webcam on and going to visit with you. As I've shared in a few comments with those who have written, things have been changing so much and continuing to change. And I guess I'm kind of adjusting to getting the rug pulled out from under all the time. Not adjusting to getting the rug pulled out from under, but adjusting to a new reality in which there's no stable rug to begin with. And so, who knows? I also think it's something different and brand new, transcendent and just awesome. With a little chaos thrown in to spice it up along the way. I used to, back when I was first introduced to Eckhart Tolle and in his Oprah appearances, that was my time for taking the waking up that I'd been doing all my life and putting it together. And I don't know, that seems like another lifetime and not just, 5-10 years ago, just nothing. I've looked back at some of my old videos and they seem like 2 or 3 lifetimes ago. When I was first waking up, the thing that I discovered, or the thing that made itself obvious to me initially, was that it didn't matter what problem, challenge, or initiation I looked at that was giving me a hard time, they all seemed to track back to mind. And if I could just be in my heart, that mind could just go deal with itself, and I just wasn't going to pay attention. Shift that we're making is more into a remembrance, on the one hand, of who and what we really are, becoming more multi-dimensional, gaining access to more of our innate DNA. And so, on the one hand, you could almost see it as going backwards, way back to our origins. But on the other, I don't think there's a playbook in the galaxy, in the universe, in cosmos for what's going on here. Who knows what we're headed into? I've changed a lot and not at all. And I'm not going to try to do a lot of explaining. So settle down in your heart and hear from there, read the vibration, whatever you want to call it. I don't think I could explain, so instead I'm just going to share. I don't think I have anything to teach anybody. I don't think I'm a teacher or ever was. I don't know that any of us is. The